First step is believing or receiving that you can feel a certain way via energy and your own energy, that your thoughts have energy, the words you speak have energy, and those things play into your well-being.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Nourished Inside Out. I am here with Reshmi today. She is an award-winning natural health practitioner, movement educator, and Indian classical artist. Thank you so much for joining us today, Reshmi.
It's my pleasure, Netta. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your background and your journey?
For sure. I'm a licensed reflexology practitioner, Reiki therapist, and somatic movement practitioner. I come from an Indian classical movement background, and the journey has led me to exploring natural health as a career move in my 30s. I I have been able to work with multiple different people and backgrounds, helping them alleviate emotions, chronic illness, undiagnosable symptoms in their bodies through natural health, through emotional release techniques, through energy and frequency.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you mind explaining to us what somatics means and how it relates to healing?
Sure. So, somatic therapies are any therapies that require or entail a mind body connection. And so, being able to feel the experience on an internal level versus saying, oh, like for example, I have a cut here, it's kind of feeling the pain within and kind of trying to find the root cause of something, having that connection through the mind and the body.
Wow. So, how does the body store emotions, and what are the signs of the body storing emotions? For example, would unresolved trauma be one?
Yeah, so you might experience like some people get a frozen shoulder, or they'll just get some, heartache, or they might get, stomach problems, indigestion. And emotions trigger a release of a compound in the body, and it connects to a receptor inside the body that's usually stored in the muscles and the organs and the tissues. And so when the two of them connect, that is kind of like that is what it means for emotions to be stored, because then that gets stored into the tissues and the organs of the body. And that's why emotional release emotional release techniques and somatics helps to alleviate the emotions but also the stored emotion. So that connection between the compound and the receptor that gets stored into the muscle is released through mindful techniques along with fueled by breath, and then also manual stimulation.
Wow. Are there certain breathing techniques that you would recommend to your clients?
So from the very basic view of it, I would have to say that finding your breath is as simple as it can be to start. With breathing techniques, I tell people there's so many different techniques out there, and I always encourage clients to simply find their breath, right? So it can be as simple as that to start. And you'll start to kind of come back into your body. There'll be this bodily awareness of like, oh, I felt that oxygen go into my shoulder. I felt it go into my chest. We're basically fueling. Now, there's different techniques like box breathing, there's pranayam. They serve different purposes. So it really depends on the client and their needs and what they're looking for at the time.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. What role does the nervous system play when it comes to somatic healing?
So, somatics work along with the nervous system because it regulates the nervous system. We're either in a state of fight or flight or rest and digest. So, sympathetic is fight or flight, or parasympathetic is rest and digest. And we're trying to get the nervous system into rest and digest in order to truly release, relax, receive, feel good. And so when it comes to somatics, we might be moving the body from fight or flight into rest or digest, depending on the treatments, depending on the modalities used.
For someone that's new to somatics, what would be the best way to begin exploring it?
Especially if you are new to it, I do think that you should research a practitioner in your area, and I think that you should have a consultation and discuss how you're feeling. With these practices, I think that it's very important that if you are exploring it, that you have a safe and responsible environment, because it's not just a technical thing, it's an emotional thing as well. And so while we can watch videos and stuff online and be like, we're doing a somatic flow, it's a lot deeper than that. And especially if you're coming from an exploratory stage of it, you want to make sure that you are held in the right capacity by a practitioner who is trained in it.
Very cool. Where where can somebody find a practitioner at like a private practice or like a clinic online?
Somatics has been around for a very long time. However, now it's becoming more mainstream. So, yes, you may be able to find a somatic practitioner in a yoga studio, in a wellness clinic, but you can definitely go online onto Google and type in your area and look for somatic movement practitioner or somatic therapy practitioner, and you can see who's in your area. And I do always encourage clients to book a consultation, because the energy matters, right? The connection between you and the practitioner, it matters. Once your nervous system feels held with that person, they can receive the care in a different way. As if you go in a little bit nervous and on edge, that's also a layer to work through for the practitioner and the client.
Yeah, that's so important. It's just really finding the person that you can connect with
Yeah,
helps create that safe space for you essentially.
exactly.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about what Reiki is and how does it work as an energy healing as well?
Absolutely. So Reiki is a modality that utilizes life energy, and practitioners channeled that life force through them and with the client. Now, there's been physicists who have proven that we are energetic beings, that energy is rhyme and reason of how the universe works. So when we're doing Reiki, we are channeling that energy through ourselves and we become a vessel. So we're not particularly doing anything to somebody. We are more so holding space and channeling energy from life force to the client. And I tell clients, I'm like, sometimes it's difficult to resonate with the form because you can't see it.
Mm,
And there's nothing tangible kind of happening. Like there's no hands on necessarily. There might be some manual movement and adjustment and kind of releasing and clearing, but essentially sometimes the practice is harder to receive because you can't see it. And I always tell clients, when you've got two magnets and they're drawn together,
mm,
right, that force that kind of pulls them together is invisible, right?
mm.
That's it. And the other thing is too is like gravity is something that we know exists and is the reason why a lot of things function the way they do, but we can't see it, right? So it's the
Yeah.
same thing with that life force energy, and it is around us and surrounds us, and everybody has access to it.
Wow. What are some misconceptions about Reiki that people may misunderstand?
So I think that well, one, if there is no manual touch, that maybe something's not really happening, that it's placebo, and that Reiki is woo woo. So, I mean, I totally understand too, right? Like in the beginning, like years ago, like if you asked me if I'd be doing Reiki, I'd probably be like, no, probably not. But that's because I didn't understand it. And also leaning into the world of energy and frequency and understanding that it is a part of our world, you're like, oh, no, no, it is here. We haven't been taught to notice it, to feel it, and to utilize it. So, yeah, I think those are some of the things.
That makes sense. Can Reiki be done by oneself or is it best done by a practitioner? Is it something people can do at home or they would need to go schedule appointments to see someone?
So Reiki is, like I had just said, is accessible to everybody. Everybody was born with the ability to access their own energy.
Yeah.
Um, it's a muscle. The more you use it, the more you feel it, the more you recognize it, the more you accept it, the more you have access to it. And so that's kind of also where somatics comes into play, natural therapies come into play. It's first step is believing or receiving that you can feel a certain way via energy and your own energy, that your thoughts have energy, the words you speak have energy, and those things play into your well-being. Now, the other thing is that sometimes, so I would say if you are trained and have been guided by a mentor to perform self Reiki. That's one way. Um, Two, sometimes we can do our own hair, but we prefer if somebody does our hair for us. It's kind of like that as well. So I don't tell people that you have to go and see a practitioner for Reiki, but sometimes if you want something that's more in depth and you yourself want to be in a state of receiving versus kind of in between doing the Reiki for yourself as well as receiving it, it can be beneficial to have a practitioner do it for you.
Wow, that's incredible. I know you were talking a little bit about reflexology as well. How does that differ from other types of body work, and what is it essentially?
So reflexology is a non-invasive therapy, and it's on the basis of different pressure points on your feet, your hands, your face, your ears, and by stimulating those points, we then stimulate the internal systems and organs that correlate with those pressure points. So for example, if we are working with the digestive system, we work with the entire foot, the entire heel, sorry. If we're doing the kidneys, we would stimulate that point, the adrenals, there's different points. So if people are coming with stress-related problems, hormonal imbalances, or they're returning back to themselves after postpartum, reflexology is a hands-on, non-invasive treatment that provides care for the full body.
Nice. Can reflexology be used to treat emotional stress or trauma, or is it solely physical?
So reflexology can help to treat emotional trauma by stimulating the adrenals, stimulating the hormonal system, kind of bringing things to a balance inside. It can help as part of the process of bringing the balance back to body so that the internal systems flow in the right way. So kind of bringing the system again out of fight or flight into rest and digest so that those internal systems work well, so your nervous system works well, your mind body connection works well. So it's part of the layers of returning to balance.
Incredible. What are like the long-term benefits of incorporating reflexology into a self-care routine?
When you have a practice like reflexology, part of your long term care, you start to experience, or the hope is that you experience illness for a shorter period of time, you recover faster, you don't get sick as much. And it's kind of like it's maintenance. So it's not treating the emergency, it's kind of providing you a barrier, a means of sustaining your health and well being, and a preventative measure towards smaller things that could become bigger.
Nice. How can we learn to listen to what our bodies are trying to tell us, and how would we know like which technique to use, whether it's Reiki, somatics, or reflexology?
So, with reflexology, it's a physical
Hmm.
ailment. So, undiagnosable symptoms, imbalance of hormones. So, that would be mood swings, that would feel pain, that would be going to the doctor and them saying, we don't have an answer. That's when you would start to actually explore all of these modalities. So, Reiki is energetic. So, sometimes you might just feel stuck, like you're having a hard time moving forward in life or releasing relationships, or it's an energetic thing that allows you to flow through your life a certain way. So that's sometimes what I say to clients is they'll just know when they need a Reiki treatment or attunement, and it has a lot to do with the energy of feeling a little bit stuck or stagnant. When it comes to reflexology, again, that's aiding in some sort of process in their life and or maintenance and prevention. And when it comes to somatics, those are emotions.
Mm.
So if there's been a traumatic event, while you can also use reflexology and Reiki, we're trying to alleviate the symptoms and the feelings that were stored in the body.
Mhm.
So those are the different avenues.
Very cool. How can releasing stored emotions lead to physical healing?
So when we alleviate or remove the emotion that's held in the body, we are creating space for the body to flow, for energy to flow, for internal functions to function as they need to, because there is literally space created. So when you just feel heavy and you feel sluggish and you feel like you can't get up, and you what starts to happen is even when you're working out, right? Like working out is also movement. And when you kind of bring in the emotions or the event into the mind, we are somatically alleviating and releasing stress from the body. And so when it comes to physically healing with stored emotions, we want to create that space in the body where it no longer stores it, but it releases it. And so, as such, there's more mobility, there's more energy, there's more flow, and there's more access to your body when it's not holding on to so much.
Do you go over with your clients on like stored emotions, going back to like whether it's childhood trauma or a bad relationship or even like the person's environment around them?
Yes, absolutely. And it depends. Sometimes they can't pinpoint it and sometimes they can. And so the integrative sessions that I do blend the modalities and it allows me to feel, is it a childhood moment? Is it something that is heart related? Is it something to do with their creativity? Is it something to do with their voice? And that aligns with the different chakras in the body. So with Reiki, feeling the energy, and again, I don't think anything is ever blocked or closed. I think we always have access to our energy, but sometimes they might be a little bit more stagnant. And that is telling of a theme or an idea or a moment in our life that may align with the emotions of an event that took place.
Incredible. You mentioned the seven chakras. Do you mind going over those a little bit and how they play a role?
Sure. So we have our root chakra, which is at the base of our pelvis, and that is connected to our childhood. So, and themes of safety, security. Then we have our sacral, which is connected to our creativity. It's our womb space. The way that we exist, feminine energy, is connected to the sacral chakra. And then we move up to our solar plexus. In our solar plexus, that's connected to our identity. So, who are we? How do we show up in the world? What is our confidence like? Then we move up to the heart, obviously, matters of love, self worth. Then we go up to the throat chakra, and that is authentic expression. What are our thoughts, feelings based on our lived experiences and based on our channeled thoughts as well? And then we have our third eye, which is our vision. And then we have our crown, which is liberation and freedom. So the combination of the seven different chakras align us with one different organs in our body and different moments, experiences, and how we experience them essentially.
That's incredible. So, what advice would you give to somebody who is feeling disconnected from their body?
Find your breath and feel your emotions.
Feel your
So
own.
that is something that we have not been taught about, is feeling our emotions as part of our well-being. It's like, oh my God, you're feeling that? Okay, shove it down and move on. But then what happens? Then we get an achy back. Then our hips start to tighten. Then we have a foggy brain and we just don't know why it's happening, but we haven't addressed the emotions in our body and in our mind. So those are the first two things I say. Find your breath, whether it's just going, right? Just that in itself opens up the lungs, opens up the heart space, right? And then feel your emotions. Am I feeling disappointed? Am I feeling angry? And instead of shaming our emotions, accept them. But know that they're for us. The emotions are for us to experience and for us to feel. They're not for us to give away. I'm not going to give away my anger to somebody because if I don't know what to do with it, what are they going to do with it? Right? So these things are triggers and they're information for us to seek help. I'm feeling angry in my body. I'm feeling angry in my mind. I have found my breath and now I'm going to seek out support. And whether that be traditional therapy, whether that be a somatic movement practitioner to help move the anger. Each person carries different energy for what they need. Some people need conversation, some people need movement, some people need water. It's very different for each person.
That's a very great point to bring up because I think a lot of times we don't feel our emotions. Like you said, as young as childhood, we've been taught, oh, just suck it up or just push it under the rug. You'll be fine. Scraped your knee, you cry, and you're like, oh, you'll be fine. What are some techniques or tips that you recommend for somebody to start feeling their emotions more? Somebody that's not used to it.
Passion,
Passion,
self compassion.
compassion.
That's literally it. There's no need for us to move on if something important has happened to us. Society has told us that work and success and our role and how we show up are the important things. However, the essence of who we are is very important. How you feel loved and how you give love are important. How you receive information is important. So, self compassion, I think, is something that humanity could benefit from, giving ourselves a little bit of grace and saying, yeah, no, that thing actually really did hurt me, and taking time with it.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. It's simple, but yet so powerful. Just self compassion. I think just really learning to acknowledge your emotions. Be like you said, yeah, that hurt me, and allow yourself the time to heal. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, before we go ahead and wrap things up, where can people find you and where can people support you and your work?
So you can find me on Instagram at Race Rituals.
Mhm.
My website is racerituals.com as well. And so between those two right now, you can find me, you can email me, you can DM me any questions. It's a really cool community that's being built, and I love this work. I'm deeply passionate about it. So any way I can help, I am here.
Thank you so much, Reshmi, for joining us today and sharing all your knowledge with us.
Thanks for having me.